And so I think what we as a people are serving in ministry are called to do. I thought it might be good to think about what I came up with these last 2 weeks about you all. Would you like me to share with you what I you don't mind? See, that's the way I keep you. Well, anyway, some characteristics of these people that I'd like to mention is that you are a free people who are called to freedom. And the basis of our freedom is a freedom from the dark apathy, that gracious human spirit of love that we were wrestling with internally in ourselves. It makes us all the difference. It doesn't mean that we don't fall. Doesn't mean that we're better than anyone else, but we know ourselves too well for that. It does mean that we don't have to sell out to cynicism. It does mean, well, you have to forgive me. I got this thing sticking out of my head, and I'm not used to that. But it does mean that we don't believe that dark behavior has the last word. It means that we don't have to continue to be trapped in patterns of sin or darkness. It means that we can protest against darkness. It means that we can protest against human violence, human stubbornness, racism, and injustice. And we can protest against inhumane behavior wherever it goes, in any way that it goes, not because we believe in a self-righteous sense that we're better than anyone else, because we know that we're born to freedom. Darkness that gives us a witness, the choice between light and darkness. We have a witness. We're free from status climbing. That doesn't mean we're not children of this culture. We are an upward and mobile culture. And even Unitarian Universalists can fall prey to that ugliness, the conspicuous consumption and the waste of our resources. But we know we're at our best when we take our faith seriously, that our identity and our worth don't depend upon the things that we have, that our status relative to our neighbors, we know that our worth goes beyond all that. We're equal, everyone. And that gives us the capacity, at least, to be free from conspicuous consumption and social climbing. We don't have to be devastated when somebody else gets the job that we wanted. We don't have to be jealous when someone else is wealthier than we are. And it's been that freedom that has made us a generous people. If we don't waste resources attempting to prove we're better than other people in some stair-step climbing, then we have resources by which we can give and invest in the world's need. You're free to be peacemakers. You're free to be peacemakers because you dare to dream new dreams. The human spirit blesses us with the capacity to look at a world trapped in the horrible curse of injustice, of violence, and to dream new dreams and to see the new visions, to live out those visions and realize the power of all humanity is meant to move the world in the direction of the dreams that we hope for, the dreams of shalom and peace and justice and harmony among the members of all the human family. Since you can dream new dreams, you can be peacemakers and followers of that peace which passes all understanding. And I've been thinking of that in relation to many of the places of the world that I've been, where my ministry has led me. I've been thinking back about my trip to Nicaragua. I went into Managua with Witness for Peace. And in the middle of the square was a picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on a huge billboard. You know, that thing he had sticking out of his head with the cigarette. And it said, Somoza is a bastard, but he's our bastard. And people saw that, and they changed their government because of that. 3 million people celebrate independence from over half a century of oppression from that dictator, Somoza. Seems like a miracle they survived. Overwhelming hardships. And after coming back, I made it no secret that I think that our government should answer for a lot of what it did and apologize to these people. Most of the people there were kids, 60% of the population. And our Witness for Peace team met with the leaders of the nation as well as men of the church leadership there. We came into a city, the bombings and flood. People were armed with what little they have. I went all the way up to Jalapa, right at the border of Honduras, and with Maryknoll nuns. Thank goodness there was this one Maryknoll nun. She's pretty husky. That's a nice way to say it. And I said, "Sister, I'm worried. You know, suppose there's a landmine or something." "Oh," she said, "okay, just stand behind me and walk where my feet walk." And I did. Well, we spoke to SAPOD, which is the Nicaraguan Council of Churches. They've been working desperately to help people come up from out of the ashes. And we spoke to Thomas Borge, the Minister of the Interior of Nicaragua. He told us how thankful he was to the Unitarians from the United States, of all people. So supportive and helpful. He pointed out that because of the help that they were given by these Unitarians, food, clothing, and other simple needs, human provisions, people who were victims of the torrents of the bombs and the massive devastation still had hope for peace. He assured us that contributions that were made make a difference in the world, and we called an army of mercy and peace in the midst of violence, a marvelous witness for peace. I remember speaking to a young boy. He actually spoke to all of us. He was 13 years old. Isaac Kohona. Isaac impressed us. Yeah, you know, kids are amazing. And he held us spellbound in the hills of Jalapa. We were right on the border. And he shared his dream with us. And his dream was for the children of the world to do what the adults don't seem to be able to do. And that is to be able to turn the eagle of war into the dove of peace. And I began to realize how few people in all the world, in all the time that of civilization that's ever been known, how many people risk for war and how few people risk for peace. Generation after generation, this curse and this sickness, the power and the demonic power recycles itself in the minds and spirit of people. And it was in that context, I think, that we know the phrase, and I know you know it, turn the other cheek and walk the second mile. Well, what does it mean to walk the second mile? It means that Roman soldier, according to the law, had the right to demand you carry his pack a mile. Well, who was that Roman soldier? He was the hated occupier of his country. And they were the Nazis of their day. And if that Roman soldier, that hated person, asked you to carry his pack a mile, you carry that pack as the law provides, and then you carry the second mile. Well, what was he saying? He was saying, get to know that man. Where does he come from? What are his dreams? Who are his family? Well, those are shocking words. But in a sense, they're an ultimate compliment to all of us. To say you're free from generations of hatred, you can take the initiative, a new initiative in a new and startling way to work with a hated neighbor. And that's made you peacemakers. And when you've been at your best, when you have been true Unitarian Universalists, you have been part of that amazing conscience that reaches for shalom when nobody else would. And then I have to say that you're not only a free people, but you're a gifted people. Not only a free people, but you're a gifted people. Charisma, the gift of the charis of grace, has made us all charismatics. It doesn't mean we speak in tongues or that we identify with a certain kind of worship that identifies with Pentecostals. It means that we attempt a certain kind of service which is identified with what we're about in terms of our spirit wanting to have some effect. We are all given the charisms of grace, which is the gift of charis, which is the grace, the loving grace of the human spirit that gave you the gifts in spite of the fact that you didn't deserve them. the Spirit that went out to look for us and call us into service and gifted us with the task. Well, I don't know. I don't know most of you as much as I actually got to know some of you pretty well. Maybe too well, but well. And I promised my son that I'd be on my best behavior. He said, no, you should never stay in their house. You should never do that. And I said, well, you stayed in my house for how long? I mean, back and forth and back and forth. But the phone call today was really amazing. Well, but there is something that I don't have any hesitancy to say that you're a gifted people. The reason I know that is twofold. One is that you're promised it. To each of you is given the manifestation of the Spirit to the common good, to every gifts of wisdom and knowledge and teaching and miracle working and helpers and healers and administrators. You are a gifted people. You're promised it, and I know you're gifted because of my experience as a minister. I've witnessed a lot of people that are truly gifted, possessing remarkable gifts, gifts of healing, gifts of teaching, gifts of leadership, gifts of prophecy, gifts of community transformation, gifts of administration. You are gifted people here in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. It's interesting to travel. I've had a lot of chance to do that. And little pockets of faithful people in predominantly third world poverty living conditions. Wherever people of faith go in these areas, they're noted as gifted teachers and gifted healers. And one could go to way in the backlands of Haiti and find tiny little clinics where people line up on long lines to get into those clinics. And some of them die. Their children die just being on the line to get to the doctors. Miles around, and they want to be medically treated, and and you're known as these kinds of people that care enough to help them, and they want to get into the schools that are established. Teachers in that schools are known as gifted teachers who are dedicated and committed. But you're at your best. You have a reputation of being gifted people. Those gifts have been invested on behalf of our neighbor's need, and the most desperate people are the ones you have sought out and wanted to reach out to. Well, I'm very indebted to people who helped mold me. I'll never forget them. They sponsored me. They called me out. These are caring people along the way of my journey. They started me. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know. I don't think I'd be here speaking with you. These tremendous people who love me as a friend, as somebody that they could help and send me forth. These are my mentors. And I've always valued that and I'll always be indebted to them for helping me in ministry. You don't know Don L. well, and you never will. He died. He was the department chairman of my high school, social studies. Well, he somehow arranged for me to preach in my home church. Well, I did my homework. I practiced it. He said, now, it's about 20 minutes, and I'd never preached before in my life. Well, so I rehearsed it alone, without people like yourselves looking at me. And I thought I'd be pretty good. But then I got up there. You'd never believe it. I preached a 20-minute sermon in 6 minutes. And my face was so red. Like I mean, when it was over, he saw I was upset. Yeah, I sat down and I'm you could tell. And he says to me, he came over, well, you'd have thought that was the best sermon you ever heard. He put his hand, I said, Jack Copas, you're going to be a good preacher someday. Oh, Dr. Elwell, come on. Here, I told her it's 6 minutes and And well, I would just say that for. And oh no, he said, no, no, no. He said, you're going to be a good preacher because you have the good sense to know when to quit. I'll never forget it as long as I live. And he had ALS in the later years of his life. And we were friends right all the way through. And the last thing that he did with the last person, me, was he took communion, the bread, through a straw. And about 2 hours after that, he died. Well, I haven't always been able to live up to that about people that quit. Well, he felt, and he knew, and he felt that others felt that maybe I might have something to offer. Maybe I might have some gifts that they needed to call out. And whenever I was in trouble, all through my life, I would go to them. These were the people that I could come and they would protect me. They would fight for me. They would care about me. There's no way I could thank them for that. Someone once said that humility is not denying the gifts you have. It is remembering where you got those gifts and who gave them to you. Well, I remember that. I told you about my friend Isaac Kahona. Well, he's dead now. They shot him. They shot him in the head. Well, that experience caused me to have a crisis of faith because I became convinced that I was an instrument of peace and reconciliation. If Isaac's story is ever to be told, I must do the telling. If his song is ever to be sung, I must do the singing. If his dream of turning the eagle of war into the dove of peace is ever to be the reality, I must continue to believe it's possible. If ministry is ever to come to a broken and divided world, my friends, then I must be a minister and you must be ministry. I would like to say to you that you are a free people. You are gifted people, and therefore that makes you a responsible people with which the word comes because you are able to respond, a capacity to care, a sensitivity. You're a covenant people. You're a people, as Frost said, with promises to keep and miles to go before you sleep. If we're not responsible, knowing what we know, free to care, break the old relationships. If we're not responsible in the word, how will planet Earth be redeemed? How will shalom come into our midst? I don't know. We can't expect others to show the deeds of love and mercy if we do not. This is the lesson you're teaching me. So therefore, you are responsible. You're a free people. You're a gifted people. You're a responsible people. And I'd like you to join with me just for the moment. Can you repeat after me? Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. And faith in the end will not disappoint. There's muscle, bone, and sinner to this faith. You're called as a people of destiny. Yeah, you are. A people with a mission. And to that you commit yourselves. So I don't really know what I'm doing up here, standing before you as a people, to people that I consider my superiors. And I mean that with all my heart. I've said far more than I ever could. I believe you're people of faith. I feel grateful that I met you and I've been touched by you, which I feel that I'm better for it. I feel privileged to be among you in these past 2 weeks. You are called to different and special ministries, and I know how painful and difficult it is for you to live out your calling. I know that. I want your faith. I think we all need to turn to each other and not on each other. Interdependently. Never let your memories outdistance your dreams. We need each other. I don't know what you've been through in the past with others. But to accomplish ministry in this time and in this place, I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the privilege to stand before you here and in some small way remind you of who you are.